Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Heather Denniston, and this is the Junk You Should Know show. And this airs every Friday at noon PST. And sometimes I have guests, and I'm fortunate, like today, and sometimes you just get me. So you never know. And I am so excited today to have Anita Bozer with me. Anita and I we go way back from a professional relationship, and incredible respect for this woman. And she's going to share some very powerful things today. One of the things I have loved about Anita is her ability to break down difficult ideas around movement into simple methods that you can apply practically every day. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to talk about a word called undulation. She said undulate. We're gonna talk about that. What does that mean and all that? But before we get started, and thank you so much, Anita, for coming. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Yeah, and as always, we're going to just defer to our sponsor, the Change Cave, and I do encourage you guys to click the link below just so you can read more about the Change Cave. It is an online 12-module, very interactive course. It's a monthly fee of just $23.99, and you get weekly newscasts, you get monthly mindset, instructional live classes. You get a very interactive, incredibly passionate group of Facebook wellness warriors. And it has now been underway for 2 months. It's been an incredibly, way more than I thought it was going to be. It's an incredibly powerful program. And if you are looking to up your wellness game, increase your foundational principles and understanding of wellness so that you can make incredible long-term transformation in your life, please do look into it. The Change Cave is a very powerful tool for you. So that is our sponsor. And then lately, I've been doing mini junks. I don't know how long this is going to go on because I only have so many little tips and tricks. I'm going to make from now on, Anita, you got out of it. I'm going to make my speakers come with little tips and mini junks to know. What's this?
It's a lime.
It's a lime. It is a lime. And it's a pretty healthy looking lime. But when limes or lemons start to look unhealthy, there are two fun things you can do with them. One, you can just throw them in the freezer as is and then use the rind. You can just use a grinder and grind it over salads or into water or whatever you like. The other thing I love to do is quickly, if a lime or a lemon is starting to go, quickly juice it, pour it into ice trays and throw it in the freezer. And you can pop them into a summer refreshing drink. You can blend it into a smoothie. There's lots of different things you can do with that. So if you only were able to stop by for 2 seconds, that you can take to the bank, okay? So our topic today is, I'm going to read the title. It's Move Like a Toddler to Bring Life and Energy to Your Inner Elder. And Anita and I came up with that title together. Her work goes back to some very primal and base movements in our bodies. And I just love it because it really gets to mental and physical connection. And we're going to talk about that. But first I want to tell you a little bit, or I want Anita to tell you a little bit about how did she get to where she is? So Anita, tell me a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are now doing what you do.
Sure. I've been a structural integrator now for almost 17 years. And before that, I was actually in the insurance business for 18 years. So I'm coming up to having more time in structural integration than I did in insurance. And when I was in insurance, I spent a lot of time at a desk, sitting at a computer, driving a car, talking on the phone. And no surprise to anybody who knows anything about biomechanics, but I kept getting neck and upper back pain.
Yeah.
Right? But it was a surprise to me. It seemed like it came out of nowhere. It was so mysterious. Yeah. And I got some help. I ended up, trying different things. My chiropractor was great. And one day I ended up at a structural integrator's office, Hellerwork, and it really changed my life to understand the mind-body connection. Wonderful. And how movement was so empowering that if I moved in certain ways, I could bring on pain. And if I moved in different ways, I could get myself out of pain.
I love that. Now, for listeners who are new to body work, you described it for me once so well about Hellerwork versus Rolfing, structural integration. Like, how does that all connect? How is it different than just going and getting a massage?
Yeah, so Ida Rolf created structural integration,
Okay.
and it's a way of working with the body holistically, the tensegrity, sorry,
Yeah, that's okay.
tensegrity structure of the body through the fascial network to balance and align the body.
Okay.
So we're looking to balance left to right, top to bottom, front to back. And
Excellent.
all structural integrators do that. Ida Rolf created the first school, and those people are called Rolfers because it's the
Okay.
Rolf Institute.
Okay.
And Joseph Heller was a Rolfer, but he wanted to add a couple little things, which way back in the 80s were a big deal, but now it's about the same as what the Rolfers do. So
Okay.
Heller work is just a different school.
Okay.
Anatomy trained structural integration is a different school. So just different schools, but
Got
we're
it.
all working systematically through the body. So we see the body holistically, and we realize that that symptom in the upper back might not be coming from the upper back. There might
Yeah.
be a different source.
Yeah.
And
That's
that's what we're
awesome.
working to balance.
Yeah, I love that. And as a chiropractor, talk about a great partner because we both have the same philosophy about that if your shoulder's sore, it's not necessarily coming from your shoulder, and that we look throughout the body to find the source. And the fact that we're working kind of with spinal neuro and you guys are also integrating all of that, I love that. And having been through Rolfing and Heller work myself, probably the practitioners know best how it's different because it does to the patient or client feel very similar. But can you speak a little to the fact when you go in, there's a plan. You're not jumping on the table and doing back, butt, leg, arm, see ya. Can you explain a little bit how that system?
Mm-hmm. So the first thing we do is we take a look, like chiropractors do, we take a look at our clients and we see where are their imbalances? What's the left side? What's the right side? How do people move? Can they move evenly one side to the other? When they walk, is there a little catch? Do they spend more time on one foot than the other foot?
Yeah.
How do the legs swing? So we take that information, and then when people get on the table, what we're doing then is based on what we see.
Okay.
Right? It's like, oh, that left side doesn't open as much. How can I use my touch to contact the body in a way that the body learns to open up more?
I love that. That makes so great. And in Heller work, is it typically a 12 visit plan that you start with where you work on different sections of the body over that 12 visit? Is it sort of similar to Rolfing in that way?
Yes. Rolfing is a 10 series. Heller
10.
work is actually an 11 series.
Okay.
So different schools have different numbers, but yes, Soma's 12 and KMI is 12.
Okay. So, and you just mentioned a couple others that people may have heard of. We've got Soma, KMI, you mentioned anatomy trains, Heller work, Rolfing, lots for people to choose from. But just the concept of getting into someone who is educated in such a way to go through the body in a very systematic method and way. And the results that I've seen coming from your office, Anita, have been absolutely incredible. And it's interesting, you and I have shared patients over decades who continue to work with you as the stressors of their life continue to change and shape their body. You and I can work with them to help them deal with that and help them create power in their own movement to combat those issues. Yes?
Yes, definitely. It's all about empowering the client. And once people go through this series, they come in for tune-ups every once in a while, but not very much.
No, which is great. And I love that too, is when you get somebody who's so empowered in their own ability to do those sorts of things, and it's really more of a tune-up, more of wellness, kind of, preemptively striking before a big issue comes up. Because you and I both know we can detect stuff going on in the body sometimes before the patient or the client can. Yeah?
Yeah, you can see the precursors.
Yeah, for sure. Now, let's talk about that fun word, undulation. Did you make that up?
I did not. Joseph Heller, when he put together this series, one of the things he did is he added a movement lesson to each session.
Oh.
And so in the session, when we're working on the back core, when we're working on freeing the pelvis and freeing the spine, the idea of the movement lesson is we're teaching the client how do they create that same freedom in their body, or how do they maintain it and create it. And undulation is the movement lesson for the 6th session.
Okay.
And so that was the term, and it really changed my life. At first, it didn't. When my practitioner taught it to me, and Kim Illig, I'm not sure if you know Kim, she's local too. I was trying to undulate. I just thought it was stupid, to tell you the truth. I was like, just stop talking about it. But when I went through the training, I realized that, wow, I can loosen things up on my own if I take the time and learn how to move my own spine.
Fantastic. And isn't it cool how now people are starting to understand sort of lay periodicals and reference material are starting to help folks see there's a massive connection between cognition and movement. And so the undulation is freeing up so many wonderful things, and at the same time, it is stimulating that cognitive function. And I love that piece of it too, which is so cool. Okay.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
And that's what was part of what's empowering about it. Is like there's this whole side to a person that I didn't even know I had until I started moving in my body. And it's like, wow, this body's a resource. It's not just a drain.
That is so. This body is a resource, not just a drain. Boy, do I love that. That is wonderful. Now, you have a saying, you have talked about this before, where you talk about moving like a 2-year-old for an hour. And I and viewers want to know, what do you mean by that?
I mean, that is the best workout you are ever going to get in your whole life, is to copy the movements of a 2-year-old for an hour. I'm lucky to be a great aunt. I'm not a grandma yet, grandma in training, but I'm a great aunt. And I have 3 grandnephews, 4, 5, and 6.
Oh my goodness.
And just to do what they do, just to crawl over the furniture, right? When's the last time you crawled over the couch?
Yeah.
Right? Crawl across the floor, just spending an hour with them is so invigorating. And they know how to use their body and push their limits, but not overdo it, right? Yes. Would they ever get on the treadmill for a half an hour? No. Yeah. And they don't need to, right? No. They'll get to the limit and then they'll back off. And then they'll get to the limit and they'll back off repeatedly.
Yeah, I love that so much. And if you look at them too, there's squatting, there's pushing, there's pulling, there's rotation, all things we need to practice because of how we move functionally and how we want to move functionally in later seasons of our life. And so that's so true. And what a great recommendation, because we can all envision what a 2-year-old does, and we might feel kind of silly at first mimicking it, but once you get used to it, it probably, and you've seen this with your clients, is probably extremely powerful.
Yes, most people won't actually do it though. So,
well, in the
just
practice,
for 10 minutes. Right, for 10 minutes.
Start for 10 minutes. Exactly. Yeah. I don't know if I could pull off an hour, but I could definitely do 20, 30 minutes. And again, just how it stimulates our brain in a certain way to move that way, and all of the ranges of motion that we don't get into every day because of the nature of how we move through our day or don't move through our day. Those 2-year-old movements make you reach up high. They make you do full rotation. They make you squat down low. And I think that's what you're encouraging. Is that right?
Yes. A somersault, right? We might not do a somersault, but what if we just bend your spine enough?
Yes.
Right?
I love
all of the motions.
Yeah, I do love that. So do you practice that at home, Anita?
I do. I try to practice what I preach.
Yeah.
It's easier when the little kids are around.
Yeah, right. It is, because it's encouraging, and plus you want to play with them anyway. So that's great. Now, another thing that you have talked about is kind of a lot of what's out there being disseminated to folks who are trying to get fit again is that you have to go really hard and you have to do CrossFit and you have to run marathons and you have, and so one of your adages is strenuous. It doesn't have to be strenuous versus not strenuous versus not strenuous, or strenuous versus not strenuous. So what do you mean by that? And what are you trying to educate people when you say that?
Okay. If you don't mind, I'm going to just run you through an example.
Please.
As that. So, when we think of working out, we think we're going to exercise, we're going to contract our muscles, right? So we would squeeze our fists and we'd make them really tight. And then we'd say, well, wow, that makes my hands stiff.
Yeah.
So I better stretch, right? So we would stretch. And there's still some level of stiffness in your hand And we've lost all sorts of other movement, like all this movement that the little kids do, right? The 2-year-olds are doing all of this with their hands. This is what's missing, right? This is strenuous.
Yes.
This is just unusual.
Yeah.
Right? It's the unusual thing that's stimulating the brain.
I love it.
And it's nourishing the joints.
Yes.
And it's exercising all of the muscles in a different way.
I love that. That is so great. And I like that you use the word unusual. One, because we don't move in all our ranges of motion every day. And so our body kind of goes, oh, that's strange. Whereas when you're 2, that would be not strange. And I also love it because it's not this linear one sort of line of drive, throughout. It's so organic and it's so natural and it's so what we do. I have a saying that I teach patients saying, every joint, every way, every day. And,
oh, I love it.
And feel free to use that. And and when you start saying, think about, just pick one joint and move it through every range of motion that you can possibly do it. And it'll be like, oh my gosh, I can't even remember the last time I put my hands behind my back and stretched, or that I reached up and really, did something like that. And I love the idea, because when you're 70, 80, 90, what's one of the first things that goes? It's hand flexibility. And that, so I love your example of that. That was really illustrative. Thank you for that. So you wrote a book. Tell me about it.
Oh, it's Undulation, Relieve Stiffness, and Feel Young. And it just went into its 2nd edition. When I wrote it at first, it was because I wanted to teach my clients to undulate, to get this fluid movement through.
Oh, you still there? You are frozen there, missing. Oh, there you are. You're back. Can you give us that last sentence? You just froze for just a second.
Oh, I said when I tried to teach my clients, they were like me. They thought it was stupid at first.
Yeah.
So I figured I needed to break it down for them. It's like, how do you move in a way to get little parts of your spine going at first?
Oh, good. That is really good.
And so I created this big undulation that Joseph Heller had included, and I broke it down into little pieces. Can you get this part of your spine to move this way? So that every joint, every way, it's like, okay, let's not do it all at once.
Right.
Let's take some joints some way and some joints a different way.
I love that.
And I came up with 52 different undulations and worked people through, try this, try this, try this. And by the time you've tried half a dozen of them, your spine's moving better. By the time you've tried a dozen, your spine's really much more fluid.
Yeah. And Anita, what a lot of folks don't realize is that the cartilage and the discs between your spine, one of the only ways they get nutrition is through movement. And so the fact that our discs go from nice springy rubber to phyllo pastry, it has almost everything to do with the fact that we start sitting all the time and we're not moving like we should. So the recommendations that you're making not only increase movement, but they improve the health of the disc, they decrease the risk of low back issues, and just create so many positive benefits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hydrating those discs is a big piece of the puzzle there.
So what's happening with you in the future? You've written this book. You've got an incredible practice. Have you got anything else up your sleeve? You strike me as you might have another book in you. Is that going to happen?
Oh, I don't know. I'm having fun teaching workshops. So
that's good.
Yeah. And I'm teaching other people how to teach undulation, and I'm teaching people how to undulate in workshops.
So if people want to take an undulation workshop to help their bodies move in these wonderful ways that you prescribe, how do they go about finding out about those?
Oh, they could just go on to the Facebook page, Undulation Exercises.
Okay.
Or my website.
Okay.
Undulationexercises.com.
Perfect.
And talk people through it.
Great. Well, we are going to put those links below for sure. And is there one undulation exercise that someone can get started on right now? Like what do they do? What do you recommend?
Okay. Most people are sitting here in front of their computer, right?
Yes.
Or tablet, right? So take your hands.
Okay.
Doing what's comfortable, right? If you can, bring your hands behind your head.
Okay.
Okay. So right away, we've opened up the chest.
Oh yeah,
here,
feels good.
Right? It doesn't have to be a lot. So just explore that movement first.
Ooh.
It's like what do your shoulders do?
Yeah, they yes.
And
Oh,
then how does that lead into your spine?
oh yeah.
And feeling for what part of your spine feels sticky or stiff and
Ah,
what movement is going to make it feel better.
I love
A lot of
that.
times we punish our body, right? It's like that spot hurts me, I'm going to hurt it back,
Yeah.
right?
That's right.
Um, and it's like, but what can we do with our movement to make it feel better? And when
Yeah.
it feels better, then it will move better, and then we'll feel better.
You're sending it movement love, Anita.
Yeah,
I
I am.
love
We
it.
are.
I love it. And I love that idea of kind of just gently checking in and mentally really feeling where the restrictions are and can you move through that in a very gentle and loving manner. That's
Mhm.
I like that. That's great. Well, that's an easy start. And you've already given us a ton of great information. I know there will be comments below. You and I will both check those out. I know Anita can probably answer a lot of these questions better than I can. So um, if you're watching this live, first of all, thank you for watching us live. And if you are watching in the replay, also big thank you for checking us out. And Anita, I am so thankful that you joined me. Let me just double check. I want to make sure that we didn't forget because we had some great questions posed. Did we cover your sort of theory on why people get stiff and restricted as they age?
Well, I feel let me have a couple more minutes. I'd love to talk about
Please,
that. Back
please.
to being the 2-year-olds, right? I
Yes.
feel like before we started school, before we started sitting still, we created this bank account of movement goodness in our body.
Yeah.
And we lived off of that. For me, it lasted me until I was in my 20s.
Okay.
And then I had to move some more. So it's not, arthritis is the fingers. A lot of people get arthritis in the fingers, and it's because we don't move it through all their ranges of motion. Arthritis isn't because you get old.
Right.
It's because we don't move. The joints that get arthritis the most are the joints that don't go through their range of motion.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's lack of movement
Mhm.
that creates a lot of the old age symptoms that
Yeah.
people just take for granted that they're going to have.
Yeah.
And, there's some luck in life, no doubt about that. But we do have control over how much we move, and how much we move actually affects our genetics. There's epigenetic factors. So
Yeah.
the way we're eating, the way we're moving, we can rebuild that bank account that we started when we were toddlers, and we can work on it every day so that when we're older, we'll be more comfortable.
Yeah, I totally love that. We are talking a little bit about epigenetics in the Change Cave private membership group, and it's a powerful subject to get your head wrapped around when you're talking about wellness. And we don't have time to go into it here, but I love that you kind of talked about this bank account of movement, and it's you're good for a while, but then you've got to start moving again because your body's going to be like, okay, I've been stationary for too many years. And so I really like that. And yes, of course, there are autoimmune causes of arthritis and things like that, but you are absolutely right. In chiropractic, we see it too. In joints that have been previously traumatized and therefore restricted, they're the first to get the arthritic change. And so absolute truth there. And so I like that too. And that I think the more we can speak to as we get old, there aren't predisposed or predestined things that are going to happen, like getting stiff and painful and all of that. That's not a guarantee, and it's not even a promise. It doesn't have to be that way, especially if you start to do some of the movements that Anita is talking about on a regular basis. I like that. That's great. Okay, what else? You got anything else for us? I don't want to check us off early. If you have any more pearls of wisdom, you've given us tons of great stuff.
One more thing that I was looking forward to sharing is that people talk about not having enough time. And I'm certainly one of those people who doesn't have enough time. So I'd like to give people some ideas of how do you build this into your day?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Not only do I not have an extra half an hour to just wiggle around like a 2-year-old, and be uncomfortable to do it that long. So the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is the alarm goes off, it jolts me awake, and I know I have 7 minutes till it goes off again, right? So I smack it. And for 7 minutes, I roll around in my bed. I pretend like I'm a polar bear at the zoo, right?
Oh, I love it.
Some people think about their cats or their dogs, right? Rather than jolting up out of bed and starting your day all stiff, start the day by just exploring your range of motion. It's like, oh, okay, what are my ankles or my wrists or my shoulders? How do I, or curl up in a ball and open up? So that's one thing. It's first thing in the morning, spend a couple of minutes pandiculating is what they call it when animals do it.
Okay, that's a great pandiculate.
Pandiculating.
That's great.
Yeah. And when you go to the grocery store, they always say park far away. That's great. Now, if nobody's watching, you can skip into the grocery store, right? You might feel a little ridiculous. I do. I feel ridiculous, but I know I'm not going to feel ridiculous when I'm 90 and still able to skip.
Amen.
But if I'm feeling self-conscious, I'll jog.
Yeah.
Everybody understands jogging. They just think you're in a hurry, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be a run, right? Add a little bit of movement that way. When I sit down in a chair, I try to sit down a couple of times, right? Like sit down, get up, sit down, get up. So they're
Brilliant.
chair squat. Chair squat.
Great.
So
I love that. That's great.
yeah,
And just, you know, we all spend time on the phone or that sort of thing too, or on conference calls. A lot of folks that are in the business there. I mean, and the big one for me, Anita, is actually TV. Like if you're not on the floor moving, if you're watching a show, you must. And one of the rules I gave some of my patients is you have a timer. You can turn your TV on, but you have to set the timer for 10 minutes and you have to roll around on that floor or the TV goes off.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. I mean, people aren't going to necessarily do it for a whole show, but they will do it for 10 minutes, especially if the deal is TV goes off if you don't do it. And, and it's funny, I actually got pretty good follow through on that, but I really like your morning routine. Talk about a great way to enter the day. That's fantastic. And then the chair squats, really, really good. And what was the third one you said? Chair squats. Oh, jogging into wherever you're going or skipping. Mm-hmm. Excellent. Yeah, I really like that. That's awesome. Well, Anita, thank you again. I'm so glad that you reminded me of a couple questions I had forgotten. I'm so glad we got to share that information. And I know I'm going to have you back at some point. So thank you for joining me on the Junk You Should Know show. And guys, make sure whether you're watching this live or in replay, share this with people who might need to know more about movement. Share this with your parents, with all sorts of folks who you think need to get up and move more regularly. We all do. And make sure that you are liking and commenting so we know how to respond and we know what you are enjoying on the show. So thanks so much, Anita, for joining me on the Junk You Should Know show. And stick around a little after so we can debrief, but we will sign off.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Yeah.